Hello. I think Spielman was up here yesterday, so he covered everything. So I'll see y'all tomorrow. Now go ahead, fire away.
Mike, a lot of coaches have talked about the depth at running back this week. How do you evaluate this year's draft class at that position, and what do you hope to get out of this week relative to that position?
Yeah, well, I've heard that quite a bit about the running back position. I have not started looking at running backs really yet. Kind of sequentially going down the line of different positions. And really for me, it's just starting the process. I know the scouts and everybody else have done a better job, but that's what I hear is it's one of the best running back draft classes in a long time.
Do you have a philosophy on finding running backs where in the draft? I know we've seen them, successful ones come from all areas. What's your personal standpoint?
I think all these guys get drafted in sequential order of how they get going. Typically, not always, but typically the higher picks are usually the better players. We really don't care. We're just looking for guys that fit us and fit our system. Obviously, the offensive skill position guys, we're always looking for guys that can score touchdowns, make big plays. So to us, those are the most important part.
Michael, as long as you coach secondary and as much of a sub-package league as it's become, hybrid safeties and slot guys and all that, how does it change your evaluation of what you're looking for in pass defense?
Well, we don't ever change our evaluation on pass defense. We're always looking for a certain traits for each of these guys, the traits that we feel like fit into our system. The third corner or nickelback or whatever you want to say is really a much more valued position, as you say now. You're playing 70% of the time. Same with the third receiver, whereas in some of the linebackers are probably not as valued as much because of the personnels that they're seeing. So, but we look for a certain trait for those guys, and I've always felt like you can never have too many corners, guys that have value that can move inside, move outside, and go from there.
Is it more expansive, your trait list for a slot corner, than it was maybe 15 years ago?
Yeah, I think when I first got in the league, everybody said the nickelbacks or the slot corners would be undersized corners, so they automatically put them in this nick category, and we kind of did that when I first got here, but we're kind of away from that now.
Coach, is there a, how you doing?
Good, how you doing, Butch?
Good, thank you. Is there a prototype for a 4-3 edge rusher, or is it just whatever guy can get there? Does he have to be 6'6"? Does he have to be 270? Does he have to be stand-up and accurate?
Well, there's prototype for positions, but they don't all have to meet prototype. Obviously you have a couple there in Cincinnati, but a guy like for us, Everson Griffin, right? Everson is a 6'2.5", 6'3" guy, strong, physical, great acceleration to get off the ball, but strong. And our defensive line coach has done a great job of coaching him and teaching him. And then, there's other guys that are the 6'5", 6'6" guys who, I like length and speed. So I don't think there's any one dimension. I mean, there's a lot of great players in the league. There are great rushers that are 6'2.5" and 260, 265. But they all have the power, leverage, the get off speed, being able to have long arm or beat the guy around the corner.
Do you think it's a vanishing breed, or the 4-3 rush edge end? Do you think it's a vanishing breed?
No, I don't think so at all. I think, that's one of the things about college football that just, and again, going back to nickel position, even a lot of these 3-4 teams end up being 4 down as soon as you go to nickel. So, but in college, there's a lot of 4 down defensive linemen that show up quite a bit.
Coach, what are your expectations for this draft in terms of offensive line? Do you expect to have some guys that is going to help to build the offensive line this year?
Yeah, well, we're looking at all the positions. One of the things we have to be very careful about, I think, with us is that we have been good on defense the last few years, but we don't ever want to slight that side of the ball. We want to make sure that that continues to be a strength for us and then add to some other sides. So when we get down to it, we're going to try to figure out the best player that we can pick wherever it is. It might be another corner or something like that, but we have to be able to do that. Now, obviously, we're going to look very hard at the offensive line there. We're going to look in free agency at all these places to fill holes, but I just want to be extremely careful that we don't rob Peter to pay Paul.
Coach, when you get edge rushers from college, through your history as a coach and a coordinator, are there certain things that universities sort of have to teach them, whether it's hand use or inside counters? Are there common things that guys come into the league and sort of don't know yet?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I'm very fortunate to have a terrific defensive line coach, but a lot of times these guys, when they get off the ball, they raise up. So, and depending on their height, especially, they don't really understand about using their inside hand as much. So it's a lot about that stuff. The get off, how important the angle of the get off. We have Donnell Hunter, who was a guy we drafted in the 3rd round, and he's had 15 or somebody sacks, the last 2 years or something like that, maybe more. Anyway, but he was a guy that when he rushed in college, always rushed like this, and I think he had 1 sack in college. Now he's learning the angles of how to rush, the leverage of where to be on the offensive tackle, and then the other attributes coming off. He was another guy that there was a guy in Cincinnati too that was like that, but they raise up a lot, so they might run 4.5, but because they're coming up like this, they're 4.6 now, and it just slows the progress down. But there's a lot of things that these guys have to learn coming in.
Sam, the situation at quarterback was very unique, I know, for you guys. But from a coaching perspective, what was maybe the concern, if you will, about having to deal with prospects or future prospects for a quarterback? Is it strictly just fit, or was that also, did you feel good about it because there was familiarity between Sam and a coordinator? I mean, where was...
You mean when we made the trade?
Yeah.
Well, a little bit of that. I mean, the familiarity always helps. I think anytime you're bringing somebody in from another team, the more you know the guy, the more chance you have of being correct. And I don't know if what Rick said, because I don't pay attention to what he talks about, but but I know at the time we made the trade, we felt like we had a really good football team, and that this guy would have a chance to help us moving forward. So I think, and then Pat being around him and knew him, and we all sat in and evaluated him. So it was really the right decision.
Mike, what specifically do each of your top 2 picks last year look on the Catholic? What do you want to see? What do they need to do to get bigger roles?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I'm going to preface it by saying, to me, in college football, the guys that come to the NFL, there's 3 positions that really make it more difficult for guys to come in and play right away, at least the way we ask them to play. So, like Mackenzie Alexander, he's a corner. He's a very, very talented guy, but the rules in the NFL are so different than college football. So this guy comes in and he can't play bump and run all through phase 2, all through the OTAs. He can't even do it the first 2 days of training camp, and so now he's catching up, trying to learn the rules of playing bump and run. So consequently, he gets a lot of penalties and goes from there. So the player development of that position, and with the offensive line, and then the quarterback, with the offensive line is so much different now. Those 2 positions take a lot longer. So one of the things that we're trying to do, and I'll get to Treadwell in a minute, but one of the things we're trying to do is really look at the player development side of things, and how we as coaches, how myself as the organization can help develop these players quicker than some of them that what we did. And then with Treadwell, he's an extremely conscientious kid that works really hard. He has been nagged a little bit with this ankle, and so he's just a guy that has to get better. I feel good about what.
Where do things stand right now with Chad? Is he going to make it back, or do you know
Chad
yet?
Greenway?
Yeah.
Well, I've talked to Chad, and he's still in the process of making that decision. I think obviously he'll want to get it done, that decision done before the free agency period starts.
What does he bring? I mean, tangibly, there are a few players like him. What does he mean to the Vikings as a whole, and then of course to the team and the locker room, that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, he's a guy that I rely on an awful lot. I'll ask him about the locker room and different areas, things I can do better. I was actually really fortunate this offseason that I had probably, I guess, it's good and bad, but I had a lot of the players come in and talk to me about, they say, hey, Coach, we want you to be the best head coach you can be. Here's some things that might help you the way you handle things, not necessarily the schematic things, but and when Chad came in, I asked him, I said, what can I do better? How can I, some of these situations that came up, how could I handle them better? So, that's one area that a guy like him can really help. But also carrying my message into the locker room, making sure guys are being accountable to one another. I think that's a big thing of what goes on with the football team is accountability to one another.
More questions.
Where's Hagan? How come he didn't say that?
Mike, this is a tough business. And when you have to do something like you did with Adrian the other day, I don't know if you've spoken with him or not, but when you have that conversation with a player, what do you try and convey to him afterward?
Yeah, well, one of the things I think that we do good with our players, and we try to be as fair as we possibly can to them. We allow these guys to go out and, when there's a situation like this, we allow these guys to go out and test the market, let them find out what their worth is, and then try to figure out the situation, how we can it can be beneficial to both sides. Adrian's a guy that has not ever been a free agent, so I think this is a good chance for him to go out and test the market and see what his value is. But I think he understands there's also a big benefit in finishing your career with one team. I've been around a lot of players that have done both, finished their career with one team and also gone on to another team for a year or two. And so, it really gives the players the opportunity to feel good about themselves. And I think it's good for us organizationally and sees that the players see that we're going to take care of them as well.
Coach, you've been with some organizations that have been willing to take chances on guys with off-field issues. What's that process like for you as you evaluate maybe some off-field issues versus a guy's really good and can help your team?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm kind of one of those guys that, and this is how I've done it in the past, is you sit down, you talk to him man to man, you sit down, you look him in the eye, you tell them your expectations of what you expect them to do, make sure they understand your expectations, and then, most of the time I'm a guy that if I feel like they're being honest with me and straightforward with me, then I'm going to have their back as well. So, I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Are there certain things that are non-starters as far as if a guy has something in his background you won't even think about it, or?
Yeah, there's certain things that you kind of keep you way back off of things, and none of us are perfect. I'm certainly not perfect, so I do think that a lot of these guys learn. They're all young guys. They've had a lot of adulation throughout their sports careers, and so. But some things are more detrimental than others, I would say.
Thanks.